The movie opens on what seems to be an antebellum plantation from the 1800s. A few escaped slaves are brought in by Confederate troops under the command of Jasper. One of them, Amara, flees once more in fear as she witnesses the other guys shackle a gadget to another slave, Eli. Amara is pursued by Jasper while riding a horse, who eventually drags her to the ground by lassoing a noose around her neck. She requests to be killed rather than sent back to the antebellum period, and Jasper complies by shooting her in the head. Eden, one of the captive women, is escorted into the house of M, a Confederate general. Eden is beaten while he commands her to utter her name. When she is unable to, him grabs a branding iron and burns it into her back, causing her to scream in anguish before weakly clinging to him and calling out her name. A new batch of black people is introduced to the plantation 6 weeks later. Everyone is told by Jasper not to speak until they are granted permission. Elizabeth, the wife of Jasper, brings her young daughter to choose one of the women, whom she names Julia. Julia questions Eden about their location and the situation when Eden brings her along, but Eden orders Julia to be silent. Later, Eli visits Eden's home to inquire about their next opportunity to flee, but Eden seems to have lost hope. She carefully examines each board on the floor to see which ones don't produce noise when stepped on. Julia then makes her way to her house, where she appears to be aware of Eden's true identity. Because she is expecting, she also wants to try to flee, but Eden shows her the scar from the branding to demonstrate that it is best to avoid upsetting the authorities. Eden disappoints Julia, who claims that she is not a leader. While him and his army are assembled, the slaves are made to perform laborious tasks as he brags about protecting their way of life for the future. Daniel and Purcell, two young soldiers, are watching Julia, and Daniel admits to feeling attracted to her. Jasper enters and instructs Julia to wait in Daniel's cabin as Purcell urges him to speak to her. Julia tries to appeal to Daniel's supposed innocence when he goes looking for her later since she thought he was nicer than the other men, but Daniel shows himself to be just as horrible when he hits Julia for speaking to him without permission. Before leaving, he gives her a boot to the stomach. On the plantation, Julia had a miscarriage the following day. Eden rushes to her aid as she cries out in pain and distress. Eli temporarily restrains Jasper by calling him a cracker as he tries to provoke them. After allowing Eden to assist Julia, Jasper confronts Eli about the situation, and the other soldiers are getting ready to fire if necessary, but he instead orders Eli to clean out the shed. He discovers Amara's burned remains there, which he identifies by her cross necklace. Eli cries out. Eden tries to sleep that night. Suddenly, she hears what appears to be a cell phone ringing. Then, it seems as though she awakens from her nightmare. Here, Eden is revealed to be Veronica Henley, a writer and activist who is married to Nick and has a daughter named Kennedy. They all currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia. Veronica is well known for speaking out how Black Americans are treated, which has led to her butting heads with experts. She sits down for a video conference with another woman while she gets ready for a trip, and it's Elizabeth. While talking about Veronica's novel and its topics, she utilizes racial rhetoric that is condescending. In addition, Elizabeth refers to herself as a talent scout when observing Kennedy, which makes Veronica uneasy. After departing on her trip, Veronica reconnects with Dawn, one of her closest friends, as Dawn pays a visit to Veronica's hotel room. She confides in Dawn some of her concerns and worries about her family life. An unknown man who brings Veronica flowers after Dawn departs also refuses to identify the source of the flowers. She believes they are from Nick based on the note that has been left. When Veronica exits her room, she encounters Sarah, another close friend who will be joining her and Dawn for dinner and drinks later that evening. Elizabeth slips into Veronica's room undetected, puts on her makeup, and takes a look around before flipping the tag on her door so she won't receive turn-down service. After that, Veronica goes to a conference where she addresses a group of Black women who are all moved and inspired by what she has to say. As she returns to her room, the girl who seemed to be Elizabeth's daughter is in the elevator with her and Spooky tells her she shouldn't talk unless granted permission. But Veronica thinks it's just a game. Later, Veronica joins Dawn and Sarah. When Veronica praises Nick for the flowers on the way to the meal, he responds that it must have been a fan. Dawn is rude to the staff because she insists on having the best table and wine. An unidentified stranger keeps watch over the women throughout the night until he brings Dawn a vodka cranberry. He then approaches her privately to express his admiration for her, and though she is touched, She takes the time to criticize his attempt since she believes the drink is inferior to the wine they are toasting with, but she still provides the man her phone number in case he needs it. Veronica gets into an Uber as the women get ready to split ways. Veronica receives a call halfway through the journey from a woman claiming to be her driver who is waiting outside the restaurant, but she suspects that it's an error. Veronica then turns to face the driver and recognizes Elizabeth. Then, Jasper sneaks up from behind her and snatches her. Though she tries her best to escape, Veronica is ultimately knocked out. Back at the plantation, Veronica awakens to the sound of the phone ringing. Outside, Senator Blake Denton, aka him, picks up the phone and tells the caller that Nick has been making headlines due to Kennedy's search for Veronica and that he would take care of the situation. While Denton declares he won't allow anyone to take Veronica away from him, Veronica makes the pretense of falling asleep. The following morning, Veronica discovers Julia has hanged herself. In her desperation, she makes the decision that they will flee tonight. She waits until Denton is sound asleep before she silently slips out of the house. When Eli comes across her, he assists her in obtaining the cell phone so she can contact for assistance. Purcell and Daniel are drunk and cannot be reached when they try to reach the cabin to gain a signal, prompting the other two to hide and drop the phone. After Purcell has left, Daniel picks it up and stops to use the restroom. Eli punches him in the face, and while they fetch the phone, Daniel is left to choke on his own blood. Despite their efforts, Denton attacks the two of them as they try to get to the cabin. Eli punches Denton during the ensuing fight to keep him away from Veronica, but Denton ends up killing Eli with a hatchet. Before obtaining his phone, Veronica beats Denton with a tea kettle. Denton attempts to leave, but Veronica uses a bayonet to stab him in the stomach. In addition to calling Nick to let him know she is alive and sending him a location pin to provide to the authorities, she manages to unlock his phone and get on it. After that, Veronica visits Eli's corpse and calls him by his real name, Professor Tarasi. Denton is carried to the shed by Veronica while being wrapped in a Confederate flag. She scoffs at him when he flimsily assures her that there will still be people like them. Jasper comes across her as she is attempting to obtain a torch, but she informs him that Denton is injured. Jasper and another guard enter the shed, where they are locked by Veronica, who then lights the logs on fire to kill all three of them. The other soldiers pursue her into the woods as she mounts her horse. After letting most of them go, Elizabeth rides her horse after Veronica. She makes fun of Veronica by claiming that Elizabeth chose the rest of the candidates, whereas Denton specifically chose Veronica because she opposed his entire campaign and plan. Elizabeth repeatedly stabs Veronica while she is trying to wrap a noose around her neck, but eventually Veronica obtains the upper hand and beats Elizabeth's face. Elizabeth is then pulled behind the horse by Veronica until she collides with a statue and breaks her neck. As the morning rises and the troops resume their role-playing, Veronica keeps riding. She travels past the plantation's entrance, when it becomes clear that Antebellum is a theme park featuring Civil War reenactments. Just as the cops arrive, Veronica mounts her horse and sets off to find other individuals. The police and federal agents free the abducted black folks and level Antebellum. Subscribe to my channel and comment down below, "I've subscribed." Turn on notifications, leave a like to help the channel grow. Thanks for watching my video.